Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelance and about which nobody usually talks out loud. In this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri, I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Nicoline Huizinga, a human design coach with 20 plus years of coaching experience, author and international speaker who helps freelancers to build a successful business tailored to their natural strengths and energy. So, welcome, Nicoline.
Thank you, Yuri. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm really happy to be here.
Since we are generators, both of us, I can't wait to hear what is the most challenging part of being a freelancer for you.
So it's really interesting. So a little nuance. You're a manifesting generator. I'm a generator, but we are both the generator type. My biggest challenge with being a generator was the fact that I tried to initiate a lot, especially as freelancers, business owners. We get taught to initiate. You know, the Nike slogan, just do it. Everyone is, especially in entrepreneurial circles, it's all like, oh, you need to take action, you need to initiate, you need to.
Exactly.
And this is what I did a lot for years. Like, oh, I need to take initiative. I need to create a program. I need to sell things to people. I need to. So, and then I found like I can do it, but it's exhausting and it doesn't bring me the results that I actually was hoping for. And and that's when I found out that my strategy as a generator, and for you as well as a manifesting generator, is to wait to respond. So I created programs, products, services that no one even wanted because I didn't respond. I just initiated. I created stuff that people were not looking for. I thought they were looking for it and I initiated, but I was not responding.
Hmm.
Once I learned about the responding bit and I started playing with it, like, oh, so people are telling me this and that's what they struggle with. Perhaps I can create a service around that to solve those problems. Then things started to take off and they started to fly because I was responding. And then I started selling things and I was like, is it this easy? How can it be so easy where before it was such a struggle and it was so hard? And I was like, but why is no one buying?
So, am I hearing it correctly that initially you were creating things that you thought were
Yeah,
useful for people,
yeah.
and what changed that you started to listen to what people really needs?
What happened was I got to know my human design and I got to know like this is my strategy to go through life, to go through business. And I started experimenting with
Mm-hmm.
it. And that's when I found out like, oh, but this is how easy it can be. All between air quotes I need to do is respond. So if I, and to give you an example, I last December I found a workbook that I had created years ago, and I looked through it. It was a tool to reflect on the past year and to plan the next year. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Like, this is really useful. So perhaps my audience wants it. And and then I was like, no, I'm not going to push this. I'm just going to check it first, whether or not people want it. So I put it out on my socials, like, oh, I found this booklet. This workbook, would you like to work with it? Like, you want me to plan a session so we can go through it? And the funny thing is, not a lot of people responded. Hardly anyone responded.
Mm.
And before I knew my human design, I would have been like, why is no one liking it? Because it's so good. And now I saw I would say the lack of response from people. And I was like, okay, that's great. Let's move on. I don't have to spend any time or energy promoting the workbook, even though I know it's good. But apparently, people are not looking for it. Great, let's move on.
And still you didn't waste time and energy into creating
Exactly.
all this webinar and like refining the book and pushing it. And it sounds
Exactly.
like very pretty much as a startup process. So when you are creating something new, you don't really have to build a product right away. You can just
Exactly.
create a website and ask if people are interested in that, and
Exactly.
afterwards just start building. So it sounds
Yeah.
like you're moving in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And that for me as a generator, that works just really well. And another example is that I always thought, and especially in the online space, especially as a coach, you are supposed to have an online program. So years ago, I was the same. I was like, I need an online program. I don't know why I thought that, but this is what you get told, right?
Yeah.
So I tried to keep up with the people who created the online programs. And I was like, I need that too. So I did a launch and I did everything that I was supposed to do a free masterclass, ran a challenge, had bonuses, sent emails to my list, promoted it on social media. I did everything, so I ticked all the boxes. No one bought it. Really, no. And I failed. I was like, I am a failure. Why am I not cut out to do this? So perhaps, I should go back to a corporate job because
Yeah.
I'm not suitable for this kind of work. I'm not suited to have an online program. I'm not okay in the online space. So I was really looking at myself like there's something wrong with me. And there must be something wrong with me because I did everything and apparently it's not working. But now I know I was initiating, I was creating something that people were not looking for, and it was not in response. And another thing is that I have a profile line 3 in my human design. Profile line 3, and when you're listening and you have a profile line 3, you are meant to go through life through experimenting, testing, and trying. And that was my biggest struggle. Every time I did something and it didn't work, I felt like a failure.
Hmm.
And it was hard, it was really hard. And I was like, oh, it failed again. Now, knowing my human design and knowing that this is the way I go through life and business, I test and try, and if it doesn't work, I'm like Thomas Edison, who said, I just found a way that didn't work. Great, let's move on.
Let's try. Let's do another 1,000 experiments
That's
to
it.
finally build
That's it.
a
It's
lamp.
another experiment. It's another test. And that's it. There's nothing wrong with me. It's not a failure. It's just a lesson in, okay, this doesn't work for me. And then I can just move on. And that was a huge game changer for me. I'm really, before I was really ashamed to say, like, I have 64 landing pages of stuff that didn't work. And now I'm like proud to say, like, I have 64 landing pages of stuff that didn't work. And when I look at it, I'm still happy with it because I'm like, oh, this is really good. Oh, this is really good. But apparently people didn't want it. Fine,
Hmm.
let's move on.
And I feel like it's a really good approach for everyone, no matter what number do you have. It's always good to try things, test things, and like, okay, didn't work, move to the
Yeah,
next one. And
yeah.
yeah, I think it's super crucial for freelancers. And I'm curious, for you, what is the most time-consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer, except the work you are doing itself?
That's a good question. It's the time consuming, but it's also energy consuming when I do my marketing.
Hmm.
And it's not coming from a place of excitement. When it's coming from a place of like, I have to do this, that like I push things like, oh, I have to be visible today, or I have to create a moment on social media. um, that's when it gets time consuming because I go around in circles all the time. And it's like, no, this is not it. No, I'm not excited about it. No. So I'm writing something and then I'm halfway through and I'm like, no, this is rubbish. Let's start again. So then it's time consuming and it's energy consuming. And when I feel that, then I'm like, okay, I need to go back to responding. I am a generator. I need
Mm.
to talk about stuff that excites me. I need to share stuff that's easy for me. So, what I do now is I keep track of all the questions that I get from people and I respond to those questions. So whenever I'm like, oh, I need to create a moment of visibility on my socials, I go back to my file, like, oh, what is a nice question that speaks to me today that I want to respond to? And then it's like, oh, this question is interesting. Great, let's create a post on that.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really helpful for me to find the flow is this. Interacting because you ask me a question and then you give me something to respond to. So
Yeah.
that is a great strategy to go from time consuming to actually easy and flowy and actually that's always the thing when I start talking, being a generator, and I'm sure you can relate to this. When you get asked the right questions, you hear yourself talking and you hear yourself say things that are like, wow, where does that come from?
And the best thing in when you have a dialogue, you don't know where it will bring you, because you are
Exactly.
explorer, as I've told you. Like, here are the initial questions, but we won't follow them. So we
Exactly.
will just go with the flow and see where we
Exactly.
go.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's I feel like, no matter how cool AI now, I feel like nothing will replace this human conversation. So
absolutely.
hopefully,
Yeah,
unless
no,
unless they will
I'm
build AI
sure.
human. So
I'm absolutely sure about this because this human exchange, because we are both energy beings. You're a manifesting generator, I'm a generator. So our energy is contagious to one another. So you ask the question, I answer, and then you feel like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. And then we really create an energy bubble together. And
yeah.
that's something that AI can never do.
What is the most nerve-wracking thing you must deal with as a freelancer?
Admin. I don't like doing admin. I think it's boring. Um, and especially since we are on the freelance, being a freelancer sucks thing, especially when your numbers are not that high, then it's really something to shy away from. I did that in the past, that I avoided looking at my admin because the numbers were so low. And I was like, oh, I don't want to look at it because I don't want to be reminded that I'm actually not doing well as a business owner. Um, but the big game changer came when I actually started doing it and I started checking my bank account every day, especially my business bank account. I checked it every morning. Now at breakfast, I check my business bank account, and I practice gratitude for every single euro that's on that bank account, even if
Mm.
it's only two or three, and it's not the case now, but it was bad a few years ago. But I started practicing gratitude, like I'm in the positive. I'm not in the negative. That's great. Even if I only have 5 euros, it's still I have 5 euros. In I'm based in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, 5 euros is not much. But
Yeah.
when I'm in another country, having 5 euros is like having a fortune. And that is a big shift in energy, in frequency. And that's my experience being a generator, but being human as well. When you shift your frequency from lack to abundance, from fear of looking the beast in the eye
Hmm.
to practicing gratitude with what you have, even if it's just this, then everything shifts. And then I got opportunities and clients started coming to me, but it had everything to do with my energy shift. My frequency really shifted from shame to gratitude to like, oh, this is exciting. Let's see what else I can do. But that took a lot of practice on mindset, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. But in the end, it was so worth it because I know the other side. So, not dealing with admin, and if one of our listeners is in that position, I feel you. But please look the beast in the eye, start practicing gratitude, and your frequency will shift.
And I feel like, what you are fear of the most, it's still haunting you. And also what energy you radiate, you are attracting the same kind of energy into your
Oh,
life.
absolutely. Absolutely. You're manifesting what you're most afraid of because that's
Yeah.
where your attention is. When your attention is on, oh my God, I don't want to have a look. Oh my God, I got another envelope from the tax agency. Oh my God, I don't want to look at it. That's when that's the energy you radiate and you attract a lot more of it. Whereas if you can break free from that, like, and see it as information, like, oh, that's interesting. Why am I so afraid to look at my numbers? Oh, it's because I judge myself for
Yeah.
not making enough money or for not having, I don't know, 10K months or a six-figure business or whatever the bullshit is that people tell each other. Like, this is what you should do as a freelancer. But I think it's interesting when we can observe ourselves, like, oh, it's interesting. Why am I not doing it? But
Yeah.
it's still, it's not one of my hobbies. It's not one of the favorite things to do because I love talking to people. I love working with my clients. But now the admin stuff it's the lowest on my list, but it's the most crucial thing I ever did to really start shifting the energy around.
As a freelancer, do you ever feel professional loneliness?
Oh God, yes. Oh yes. This is my 16th year of being a business owner. When I started in 2010, um, it took me, I think, a year and a half,
Hmm.
and I went back to a corporate job because I was so lonely.
Oh.
I was sitting in my home office, I was doing my thing, and especially after holidays, I felt so alone because no one asked me, like, oh, how were your holidays? Because, I have no colleagues. So I missed, the coffee machine conversations
Yeah.
that people have when they have colleagues. So I went back to a corporate job only to find out within 3 weeks that that was the biggest mistake I could have made. But I do get the loneliness, and especially when you are doing your thing and you're trying and you're working hard, no one sees that. No one talks about that. And people only see, the shiny, happy picture. And like, oh, look at me, I'm being all successful. I published a book and da da da, But no one talks about the shadow side, about the other of the work that we do. And that's why I love that you have this podcast. So the loneliness, I absolutely know the loneliness. And that's why I made a conscious decision every single month. I make sure I have a networking event, an in-person networking event. I need people every single week. I make sure to talk to like-minded business buddies because I really need to have the real conversations, not like, how are you? Oh, I'm great. No, about what is life really for you? What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? Do you need eyes on something? That's so I made some really conscious decisions on that. But I think the loneliness is definitely something that we don't talk enough about, and
Yeah.
that we really should highlight that it's part of the deal. Being a freelancer, I mean, the word freelancer gives you a lot of freedom, but it comes with loneliness as well. And I think that's definitely something we should talk about, and we can solve it really easily by connecting people. We create a network, we create a platform where people can be real and feel understood and heard. And that's where the relief comes. Like, I'm not alone, I'm not the only one, I'm not crazy, I'm not weird. And that's definitely what we need.
One of the songs on my motivational playlist is Last One Standing. And there is a part that now you see me standing in the lights, but you never saw my sacrifice or all the nights I had to struggle to survive. And
Wow.
I feel like it can really relate to what freelancers sometimes going through, because
Yeah.
you can't be weak, you can be seen weak in the eyes of your clients, because they're like, oh, why should I hire this weak person? But
Yeah.
also you have, to be always shiny part of yourself, and you can't shine always. You need sometimes to see your dark side and to show
Yeah.
your dark side to some humans. And that's exactly why I love these kind of conversations, and that's why I'm always encouraging people to join freelancing communities with
Yeah.
people who are in the same boat and who can relate to you, who can you
Yeah.
relate to, who can you openly talk about the challenges that you face. Because it's nice to share nice good things, it's
Yeah.
always great, but you can go to LinkedIn and then receive hundreds of likes on some
Yeah.
goods that happens. But usually it's the harder part is to share the challenges you have, and that's what you're dealing
Absolutely.
with. But it's
Yeah.
very crucial part of every freelancer's life, I would say that.
Absolutely. Authenticity is the thing that we connect to the most, but it's the thing that we are most reluctant to show.
Yeah, yeah,
It definitely connects us. I mean, I shared many stories on my LinkedIn that were real and raw, and some of them were really, really personal. And those are the stories that people can relate to, and they remember it. I mean, I'm a cold water swimmer, and that's for a reason. It's not because I'm a tough cookie or, I'm look at me, I'm all, the reason I started it because I was struggling with menopause issues. I was struggling with hot flashes. I was struggling with mental issues. And I started sharing my journey about the cold swimming because I wanted my body to get a reset. And I shared stories on my social media about that, also about the reason why I'm doing it.
yeah.
And people were like, oh my God, it's so good that you're sharing this. I'm experiencing it too, or my wife is experiencing it too. And oh, this is so good that you openly talk about this. We need this kind of talk. And I'm like, I don't want to only share like, oh, look at me, I'm in the sea, only 5 degrees Celsius. It's like, it has a reason why I'm doing this. And
Yeah.
that's what people love, but it's hard because I don't want to show myself in, it's not my most beautiful side, it's not my most attractive side, but it's the real me. And that's what I love to do a lot more of. And that's why I absolutely love what you do with your podcast.
And what you mentioned, it's someone's dark side, let's call it dark side, is not the most attractive side, but that what brings you the best relationships in the world. So
Absolutely.
you don't have to shine because, yeah. Anyway, so if your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top 3 things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
Um, Good question. What would I ask them? First of all, do you know what you are good at and what you absolutely love doing? Because having that clarity is definitely going to help you. Because if you start being a freelancer and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not, I don't really know what I'm good at, then it's really going to be hard.
Yeah.
Second is, are you self-starting? Because you need to have this inner drive to get yourself going. And I would say third is, um, do you think you can handle the the ups and downs of income, of feeling on top of the world, feeling like a failure, and back again? Because that's what this journey can bring. And I would say fourth is, are you ready for the best ride of your life? Because it's going to be a hell of a roller coaster, but it's
Yeah.
so incredibly worth it when you're really ready to embrace it.
Yeah. It's either break you or make you stronger. But if it
Yes.
breaks you, you can always come back to 9 to 5 work, and
Yeah.
it's
And
still
then
out
it's,
there.
yeah. And then it's never a failure. You know, you just found a way that doesn't work for you.
And
And
it's
then,
experience, always experience. Yeah.
exactly.
I wish to have the sky is the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question. If you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
I would have started with my human design because that would have saved me a lot of trouble and a lot of frustration. So I would have started with my human design. I would have hired a coach from day one, because that is really helpful to have someone who has done all the things that you're about to do, and to have someone who can hold you accountable for things. Because the thing is about freelancing, having your own business, if you think of something like, oh, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, there is no one who will tell you in a week or in 2 weeks, like, why isn't it happening? Why aren't you not doing it? And that's why you need a coach. And I would say, what would I have done differently? Invest in my network actively from day one. I
Yeah.
experienced it like after 2 years, that I was lonely and that I actually didn't really have a network, but really invest in the network from day one. So those three things, 100 other things, but I would say this is the top three.
Got it. Nicoline, thank you so much for sharing your experience and for talking about your challenges so openly.
You're so welcome. It was a pleasure. And like I said, I think we really need to talk about these things more often.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button on 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.